Let's chat, you and I, for a little bit. And unfortunately, due to the way this technology works, this is going to be a one-way conversation. However, today I'd like to introduce you to a new series of videos that I'm starting. Lessons from Spirit. Now, I've been on this path since 2017, and I have sat with thousands of people. I have sat with hundreds of groups. There seems to be a consistent message from the world of spirit for us. And today I want to share with you one of those messages, both from spirit and from my own experience. Now, I'm going to do my best to make this under 10 minutes, so let's get right to it. The purpose of today's video is to talk about how we can best reduce our own conflict. The conflict and the turmoil that we find in our heart and in our mind. How can we find peace? Well, I want to offer you some interesting perspectives, and just remember, I'm not an authority of anything. I am just speaking from my own experience. Please, as with any person on the internet and any person that you encounter, take what works for you, leave what doesn't behind. Let's talk about something. No, we all have conflict in our lives. We all have conflict in our hearts and our minds. Now, I can't generalize and say all of the conflict that we have in our heart and our mind comes from this place that I'm about to talk about, but I think a lot of it does. But I want to tell you the story of how this kind of hit me. Back in July, my husband and I were camping in Burlington, Vermont. Now, we live in northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont. I am, by preference, a person that does not like AC on in the car. I will drive with the windows open. I like the air moving through. I don't like AC. Not in a building unless I need it, and not in a car, and again, unless I need it. So we're driving through traffic, going from one end of Burlington to the next, windows down, it's hot out, and again, I turn on AC only when it's necessary. I was trying to survive with the heat, and we were stuck in traffic. And I started to get a little hot and bothered. I started to get a little annoyed. I started to get a little pissed off. And as I was in that space of being pissed off, something hit me. Now, as a medium, as a psychic, I know when things are coming from myself, and I have a pretty good way of understanding when things are coming to me externally. The message that I got in that moment hit me very hard. And that message was like, this frustration you're feeling, that's a you thing. A me thing. Wow, imagine having to be, held accountable for our actions. Who loves that, right? Well, I sat with that for a moment and really peeled it apart. That's a me thing. And with some reflection, it absolutely was a me thing. Here I am with this expectation or this ideal that I was holding that traffic should operate a certain way, that people should drive a certain way. So my expectations or my ideals are up here. However, reality is down here. I say this with all the love I can muster. People are nitwits. Especially in traffic, right? People generally are nitwits. If I had found a place of gratitude for the fact that we were just generally moving forward, if I could take my expectations and ideals here and get them closer to reality, I would reduce the amount of conflict that comes from the tension between my expectations and my ideals and reality. That has taught me a lot. That idea that if I could just accept reality for what it is and remove myself from those expectations and standards, those ideals, I'd find more peace. I have been able to apply that to pretty much everything in my life that gives me conflict. Allow me to be a little vulnerable with you. I'm a heavy guy. For people who have seen me, I'm 6'7". I have body fat. I am by no means a Hollywood body. I don't have six-pack abs. I have I have body fat. I have love handles. I have body fat. Growing up in a world that would tell us that you should be a certain ideal, an ideal, well, the reality for me is this. Okay. Ideals, expectations, and standards given to me by, let's call it for what it is, a broken world. But here's my reality. My reality is that I come from fluffy people. I come from big people. My DNA, mostly Viking. I look at the pictures of my grandmothers. I look at the pictures of my great-grandmothers. Like, they were fluffy. I have that genetics. I have a propensity physically to hold onto body fat. Now, that's the reality. Here are the standards, ideals, reality. Way different. And I've tried to take my ideals, expectations, and standards and move them closer to the reality of who I am, to accept myself for who I am. I can apply this to pretty much everything. I am notorious in my life for over-romanticizing people. People will come into my life, I see the very best version of them. That's not the reality of who they are. I could apply this to weather. You know, we hope that the weather is going to be perfect on our wedding day. And sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. The reality is that the weather is outside of our control. We can apply this to our children. I have a son. I have standards, expectations, and hopes for him. To be the best parent I can be, I have to accept reality and him as he is. Now, with this in mind, I'm not saying let go of your standards, let go of your ideals. Absolutely not. We should have hopes and standards and ideals for ourselves. And I'll use my physical body, you know, like I have standards and ideals. But I look at it in a different way. When I work out, when I do my best to eat well, I'm not trying to be less fat. I've flipped it and I'm trying to be more fit. Whenever I get my hair cut or get my brows done or whatever, I'm not trying to be less ugly. I'm trying to be more beautiful. I can see myself as beautiful and want to increase that. I can see myself as healthy and want to increase that. Now, why is that important? Because when we inevitably encounter sickness in this world, we should do our best to become more healthy and not less sick. That's a huge mind shift, perspective shift. Now, let's take your standards, your ideals. Reach for the sky, baby. Like, truly. You are somebody, I am absolutely sure, who wants the best for yourself, for your family, for your life. Reach for the sky, reach for the stars, shoot for the stars. You might land there, you might not. Don't beat yourself up because you don't hold yourself to those standards or you can't achieve them. You absolutely should be able to accept yourself for who you are, yet want more for yourself at the same time. Take reality and accept it. Now, I'm going to use a term here that I absolutely hate, and it's one that it bothers me so much, but we know what it is. We all are familiar with the idea of being a Karen, and I have so much sympathy for women who end up being Karens because they're the bullshit hunters. They're the ones, most often, who are looking to minimize the bullshit. They have standards, expectations for themselves in this world. They're holding the world to those expectations. They're told by the world to minimize the bullshit around them. Life isn't going to be that way. Reality isn't going to be that way. So that's why I believe in vitamin joy. You know, we're going to hunt the bullshit, look out for the negative, but we need vitamin joy to correspond, like compensate for that. But we must do everything we can to be a realistic idealist. And we must do everything we can to be an idealistic realist. How can you hold standards, expectations, and ideals for yourself, your community, your family, your loved ones, but also reconcile reality with that and bring them closer together? And as you do, you'll reduce tension, you'll reduce turmoil, you'll reduce conflict in yourself. Let me take this opportunity to remind you that you're absolutely perfect, you're absolutely whole, and you should absolutely want more for yourself. All my love to you. Thank you for being